Yo, welcome to the channel. In this video today we're going over the Magicka Necromancer for the Waking Flame patch. So, max Magicka is 36.3, maximum health is 19.9, almost at 20k mark. Magic recovery is 1.4, unbuffed, spell damage is 3.2k, spell critical is 61, and spell penetration is 5.3, almost 5.4. So, I am a Briton. Briton gives me 6% or 7% less cost to my magic abilities, while giving me some sustain magic recovery and max magicka. But if you're pushing for scores or numbers, you're trying to min-max, you're going to want to go with either high elf, Khajiit, or dark elf. Those are your top three. Khajiit is probably the better one, because high elf will give you max magicka. It will give you some sustain back every 6 seconds. I think it gives you close to 700 max magicka or stamina, whichever stat pulls higher, and then it gives you like 258 weapon and spell damage. But Khajiit gives you sustain from your max health, max magicka, and max stamina. It also gives you just resources of your max magicka, max health, and max stamina, and then it gives you an extra 8% crit damage, I believe. So overall, I think Khajiit is better than high elf, but you can't go wrong with either one of those. And then dark elf right there at third. So if you're pushing for numbers, but go with one of them three. But a Briton can, or any race, really can get you through any content. So, max magic, I have 64 points into Magicka. The boon I'm running is the Thief. The food I'm running is Ghastly Eye Bowl. Still trips me out that it says ice cream. When it comes to food, you can go with you got Corrupting Bloody Mara. It's pretty solid. I actually kind of forgot about this and I haven't mentioned it in the other Magicka videos. But it's pretty good. It gives you a little health recovery. I tend to use this in PvP. That's about it. But Ghastly Eye Bowl, if you have good resources, like you're getting good synergies and stuff like that to return your resources and stuff like that, like orbs and stuff, or shards, you can always go with Solitude Salmon-Millet Soup. This is pretty good. It's going to give you overall more max health and max magicka. So, but it's going to give you no recovery. Witch Mothers is a pretty good one. That's going to give you some max health, some max magicka, and some magic recovery. But overall, Ghastly Eye Bowl is the one I use the most. So it's just up to you. Whichever one you feel more comfortable with using, by all means, go for it. If you want to see your recovery buffed with everything, let's see. Blood or Pet. I am having tremendous lag. But yeah. So our recovery with the Ghastly goes to 2.1, and with let's just say Witch Mothers, our recovery is 1.9. As you can see, it just dropped there. And then with the basic food, our recovery, it's going to take it a second. See, our max magicka goes 36. Our max health is like 25.5. It's huge. But our magic recovery is 895, just kind of by itself there. Which isn't necessarily, after fully buffed, is bad. It's decent, not bad. Go ahead, pop all that. So you see our recovery goes up to 1.4, basically the base of what it is with Ghastly Eye Bowl. So even then, Solitude food isn't bad to use. You have more resources, and the recovery stays the same at base. But it's just up to you. Let's go whichever one you like. Go whichever one makes you feel more comfortable. It's whatever. Green Tree. For the passives, we have 50 Gilded Fingers and Fortune Favors. This is just to increase the gold that we get. Fortune Favor increases gold that we find in treasure chests and safe boxes by 50%. Gilded Fingers increases the gold that we get overall by 10%. And Steadfast Enchantment reduces the cost, reduces the decay rate of our weapon enchantment by 50%. And then if you travel around a lot from Wayshrine to Wayshrine, couldn't speak there for a second, you may want to invest some points into this if you're using gold. If you just travel around, you have travel to player, and save your gold, then this isn't really that big of a deal. Now for the ones that I keep on my bar, Treasure Hunter, increase quality of items you find in treasure chests. I always have this on my bar. And then Liquid Efficiency, whenever you use a potion or poison, you have a 10% chance to not consume it. It's great to have. you know, spell power pots, poisons in general can be relatively expensive. If you do have to do this for a lot of characters, or if you just do a lot of things where you have to use them a lot, it can get a bit pricey. So this, you know, 10% chance is still 10% chance to not have to spend more gold. So, and then while I'm waiting on dungeon queues and groups to form, I usually run around and gather resources. And Master Gather and Plentiful Harvest are really nice. Basically gives me 50% reduced time in gathering and a 50% chance to get better resource nodes. Now, if you don't really care about those, two that you can replace it with, Rationer gives you an extra 30 minutes to your food and drink, and Steed's Blessing is really nice, just increases your out of combat movement speed. Now, Red Tree, the main ones, Boundless Vitality, Fortified. Well, Boundless Vitality gives us max health, 1400. Fortified gives us 1.7k armor. Rejuvenation just gives us 90 health, magic, and stem recovery. And then Siphoning Spells gives us an extra 1500 Magicka back when we kill an enemy, whenever we land the killing blow. Now for passives, Defiance reduces the cost of break free. Tumbling reduces the cost of roll dodge. Hero's Vigor gives us an extra 560 max health. Sprinter reduces the cost of sprint. And here, Hasty gives us 4% more movement speed. Tireless Guardian reduces the cost of block. Fortification increases the amount of damage we can block, gives us a 4% block mitigation. Walking effects increase the movement speed while bracing, so while we're blocking we can move 6% faster. And Savage Defense reduces cost of batch by 45, so, or well, 90. So, and then I also like Tempered Soul. Whenever we get caught sleeping, when we get res, basically this is going to give us back 10% of our resources, 10% more resources back. And then in the blue tree, Precision, Eldritch Insight, Piercing, Flawless Ritual, and War Mage for our passives. Now, ones I keep on my bar, Fighting Finesse, lagging up there, Biting Aura, increases our damage done with area effect attacks by 10%. Master at Arms, increase your damage done with direct damage attacks by 10%. Thaumaturge increases the damage done with damage over time effects by 10%. So, and there's also Deadly Aim, which isn't bad either if you want to go with that. Now, BackStabber is really good to have on your bar if you know you can stay behind the enemy. If you can't stay behind the enemy, or if you're not flanking them, then this isn't going to do you any good. So, in that case, you're going to want to swap it out. So what I would swap it out with would be like, I would probably swap it out with Master at Arms. Yeah, it's just me. Either Biting Aura or Master at Arms. That's just, I would just go with one of them two. But remove whichever one you feel more comfortable with removing. But these would be one of the two I would remove. Now, inventory. First set, same as all, Medusa. I love Medusa. I run it on all my magic characters, as I said. Same thing. Precision, or precise, flame damage enchant, jewelry, two bloodthirsty, one infused, all golded out. The purple is fine, but like I said before, these were in the golden vendor, and I just kind of bought a ton of them because I knew I would use them. So, but what this does, it gives me a ton of spell crit, and then it gives me minor force at all times, increasing my critical damage done by 10%. Now, this is only on my front bar, but it's there. And it frees up my back bar slot, so I don't have to use Barb Trap or Channeled Acceleration. So, I like it. I like it a lot. And I use it. And set, if you don't feel like using this or don't want to farm Archcranium for this set, Mother Sorrow is a good set to use, but then you're going to have to use like Barb Trap or Channel Acceleration. So, monster set, Zons. Pretty simple. Medium helmet, medium shoulders, divines with max Magicka. When it comes to monster sets, what this does, this comes from Skullcaller Peak, and it is it can be a complicated dungeon to get through, but it gives a spell critical, and when you damage a nearby enemy with a light or heavy attack, you have a 33% chance to create a beam of fire that will connect you to your enemy as long as you remain within 8 meters of them. The beam deals 1.3k flame damage every 1 second to your enemy for 6 seconds. Every second, this damage increases by 100%. This effect can occur every 18 seconds, scales off the higher of your weapon or spell damage. Now, personally, I like this set. I use it a lot on all my magic characters except for a couple. Um, but for the most part, at one point I was trying out Killinars, and it's nice, but due to the changes to the way this stuff is, where it works off your spell damage or your max spell damage and stuff like that, this used to be like a 20, 21, 24k hit, but it's not anymore. As you can see, it's less than 10k. So it took a huge hit with just the weapon, the fact that it scales off our weapon or spell damage now. So it's not really worth running. I mean, you can still run it if you want to. It's just not worth it for me. Other monster sets that you could potentially run if you want to run a full monster set is Valken Scoria. It gives you spell pin, and then basically you just, when you damage overtime effect, you have an 8% chance to summon a meteor that deals 5.7k flame damage to the target and 1.9k flame damage to all the enemies within 5 meters. You can go with the Lambris. If you wanted to. This comes from Crypto Hearts 1. Another set, let me see. Maw of the Infernal is a pretty solid one. This comes from Banished Cells 2. If you don't have Zons, this would probably be the monster set I would go with if you want to run a full monster set. Banished Cells 2 is pretty easy to get through. We're normally close enough that Grofzar will make a difference if we wanted to use it. But that's up to you. Gives us max Magicka, and when we deal damage when we're within 8 meters, you have a 10% chance to create a lava pool that swirls around you, dealing 1.2k flame damage. So you can use this if you want to. It's up to you. But honestly, if I didn't have Zons, I would probably go with Maw of the Infernal. And if you are absolutely okay with it, I would just run. You don't have to run a full monster set. You can run 1-piece Slime Crawl, medium Divines with max Magicka, and then run 1-piece Zons, 1-piece. If you feel like you need more penetration, run 1-piece Scoria. Whatever. Run 2 pieces that give you crit. I think that's like you can run Zons and Slime Crawl, and you will be fine if you don't want to run a monster set. So, now, the second 5-piece set is I absolutely love on a Necromancer. I've been running it for a while, and that is Secession, Elemental Secession. This comes from Maelstrom Arena, and it is a fun set to run. This was made for a Necromancer before a Necromancer ever even came out. And basically, it gives us max Magicka, spell damage, max Magicka, and whenever you deal flame, shock, or frost damage, which we deal all 3, you gain 475 spell damage for that element for 4 seconds. Each effect can occur every 4 seconds, and multiple effects can be active at once. Now, we're going to proc all these with our spammable, but at the same time, between our wall of elements being flame, the frost from our second AoE dot, our crypts, our little graveyard, and then our siphon ability is shock damage. So we're going to, even without using our spammable, we're going to proc this, no problem. Now, this comes from Maelstrom Arena. We're running all Divines, all in the body. Now, if you don't want to go into Maelstrom Arena to farm this, I'd recommend it, because you're going to be there anyways farming the Maelstrom Arena staff. We're running it on the back bar, infused with a weapon damage enchant. Basically, while they're in our wall of elements, our light and heavy attacks will do additional 1.3k damage to the enemies inside the wall of elements. If you're really not good at light attack weaving, this ain't going to do you any good. So you can still just run another Medusa Inferno staff or Medusa Lightning staff for the back bar, and just kind of have that active at all times. So you can just go with whatever. But if you don't want to go in there, you don't want to farm that set, you farm this set. Another good set to run. Do I have them on? Where are they? There they are. Must have put the other ones in my bank. I don't know why. Catalyst. Catalyst is a really fun set. Oh, no, it's not in my bank. I know what I did. Catalyst is a really good set. It gives us max Magicka, spell critical, max Magicka. And whenever we deal flame, shock, or frost damage, you apply a stack of flame, shock, or frost weakness to the enemy for 3 seconds. Each stack of an elemental weakness increases their critical damage taken by 5%. And an enemy can only have 1 stack of each element weakness at a time. So basically, as long as this is on them, they will take an extra 50% critical damage. Or not 50. Did I say 50? 15. An extra 15 critical damage. 5 for each of the 3. So, And again, just like Elemental Succession, we can proc it really easy just from our spammable and everything else. So honestly, if you don't really care for Medusa, because some of the passives we have as a Necromancer, I want to say it might be within the Living Death line. Let me check. But there should be. I do not see it. So maybe I'm just forgetting, or maybe they changed the passives. Oh, here. Increase your critical strike chance against enemies under 25% health by 4% for each Grave Lord ability slotted. So we get an extra 8% crit chance. I mean, that doesn't seem like much. I guess maybe they nerfed that and I just didn't. I might have bypassed that in the patch notes. So never mind. I would definitely keep a crit set on, because at one point I remember that getting higher. So maybe they just changed that. So completely disregard that last little bit, but I'll leave it in to show that even I mess up. So definitely run your crit set Medusa or Mother Sorrow, or even Mechanical Acuity if you want to go with it. I kind of have trouble lining it up on my Necromancer. So, but Catalyst is a really good set to run, even as a DPS. There is some DPS difference in it, but it's not that much. By yourself, it hits around the same, honestly. So in a group setting, though, this will outperform because of the fact you're increasing the DPS. You're increasing their critical damage that they take from everybody, not just yourself, but everybody. So honestly, Gloves of Succession is really nice to have, especially when you're by yourself and just rolling around. But if you're in a group with people you know, people you can trust, I would rock Catalyst. That's just me. So, that's just me personally. If you're running Mother Sorrow, of course you're going to want to keep that on the body. So in that case, you're going to want staffs. Just run Inferno Staff or the Elemental Succession Inferno Staff, whatever you want to do. Just run that on the weapon and body. Completely up to you. But yeah. So, DPS wise, normally I like to show what I got, but I have not been able to get a full DPS test in for nothing. I keep bar lagging, I keep having trouble. Normally, before this though, it would be somewhere between 35 and 39k, depending on if I was using Succession or Catalyst. Catalyst does kind of outperform Succession a little bit, but it's not by much. It's like maybe like it was around like 200, 300. But in all fairness, I am pretty shitty with the Necromancer, especially Magicka Necromancer. So, but bar setup, to start your DPS test, I do use Essence of Spell Power for the most part, just because, but you really don't have to, because we are running Inner Light and stuff, so we can get away with that. So the skills that we're using for the setup: Crushing Shot. This is our main spammable, and it's going to focus all the elemental energies with your staff and blast an enemy for 2.7k flame, frost, and shock damage. So this is how we can proc Succession and Catalyst all with one ability, just Crushing Shock. Honestly, if you're not running Crushing Shock or Catalyst, and you're not running either one of those sets, use Ricochet Skull. Ricochet Skull, it's better. You lob an explosive skull at an enemy, dealing 8.4k flame damage. Every third cast, this ability deals 20% increased damage and will bounce up to 2 times to other nearby enemies. Overall, Ricochet Skull is a little bit better if you're not running Elemental Catalyst or Elemental Succession. So if you're running something like Scathing Mage, Burning Spellweave, Dragonkin's Grip, though Ricochet Skull will be better with those sets than Crushing Shock. Or I use Crushing Shot mostly for the fact that I can interrupt. But if you don't really care about that, you can use Force Pulse, and it will kind of work like a little AoE ability because it will bounce to like 2 targets. So either morph will be fine. Blast Bones, summon a flaming skeleton from the ground after 2.5 seconds. Skeleton runs after the target and explodes when it gets close to them, dealing 14k flame damage to all enemies nearby. Every second the skeleton spins chasing its target increases the damage of the explosion by 10%, up to a maximum of 50% more damage. Creates a corpse on death. And keep that in mind, because that is how we're going to pretty much start everything as we DPS test. And just in general, if you're fighting a boss that has no ads, this is how we're going to get most of our kit to work. So, Degeneration, blind enemy with chaotic magic, dealing 17.8k magic damage over 12 seconds. S6 magic spills out from them, granting you major sorcery, increasing your spell damage by 20% for 24 seconds. So we can get away with using trash bots because of this and because of Inner Light. So go with whatever. Mystic Siphon, violent drains the last spark of life from a corpse, dealing 19.2k shock damage over 12 seconds to all enemies around the corpse. And between you and the corpse, this portion of ability scales off your highest offensive stats. You also restore 1.2k Magicka over 12 seconds while siphoning the corpse. While slotted, your damage done is increased by 3%. So, and then of course, Inner Light. This is only on our bar to increase our max Magicka by 5%, and you gain Magic Prophecy. Increase your spell critical rating by 2.6. Now, our ultimate on our front bar is Catalyst. Basically, it's going to this big AoE. For 11.4k flame damage every 1 second for 7 seconds. Now, if you have Ice Comet, go for it. You know, if you have your Meteor, you level it up, it's going to do more damage, and especially if they're stationary. If they're stationary, overall, it's going to do more damage than Fiery Rage, but overall, these are this ultimate is easier to get than Ice Comet, because this, well, in all honesty, this is extremely easy to get to, but it's tedious to go and hunt for them lore books. And a lot of people just don't want to do that little tedious stuff. I get it. So, Elemental Rage, if you have it, use it. You'll be alright. It's not a big deal. Blockade of Fire, slam your stuff down or create a flaming barrier in front of you, dealing 1.3k flame damage to enemies in the target area every 1 second. Burning enemies take 20% more damage from this ability. Avid Boneyard, desecrate the ground at the target location, dealing 15.5k frost damage over 10 seconds. Consumes a corpse to deals 50% more damage. You or an ally standing in the graveyard can activate the Grave Robber synergy, dealing 13k frost damage to enemies in the area and healing for the damage done. Now, this is kind of how I do this. I will show it. Whether I'm DPS testing or doing anything of the sort, I usually start with the Flaming Stalk, and as I rotate, I will drop Wall of Elements, and by this point, he should have crashed, and then I'll do the Graveyard. So it's going to consume that corpse and deal more damage. Now keep in mind at this point, I will have, this will be out attacking too. So after that, and then this, or not that, after the Wall of Elements and the Graveyard, I will rotate, I will hit this, and go Degeneration, and then at that point I will just siphon. Pretty easy, not hard at all. A little that didn't want to stop there. But yeah, Skeleton Arcanist, yeah, unearth a skeletal mage from the dirt to fight by your side for 16 seconds. This mage attacks the closest enemy every 2 seconds, dealing 3.7k shock damage to them, and all of the enemies nearby creates a corpse on death. Now keep in mind, although this is shock damage, it does not proc Succession, it does not proc Catalyst. It just doesn't. But with this being fire from our Inferno Staff, this being our Boneyard being frost damage, and then this Mystic Siphon being shock damage, I mean, that's going to proc all three from Catalyst to Elemental Succession, and we're good. Even with Crushing Shock. Crushing Shock is just there just to benefit from the three. Just to benefit from Elemental Succession. So, and then I have this double bar just for the increase the damage while I'm on my back bar. Same thing with this one. Now, Glacial Colossus is our main ultimate. Unleash a frostbitten flesh Colossus to pulverize enemies in the area. The Colossus smashes the ground 3 times over 3 seconds, dealing 10.7k frost damage with each smash. The final smash stuns all enemies hit for 4 seconds, dealing damage applies major vulnerability to any enemy hit for 12 seconds, increasing their damage taken by 10%. This is the main ultimate we're going to use. Even if there's a second Necro in your group, whether it's a trial or a dungeon, you can talk and communicate and basically stair stack these things. So they can go first or you can go first, and then as it starts to hit that 11-second mark, you drop your ultimate. And then it will just keep major vulnerability up. It's really easy. Now, Flex Spot, you can really replace either one of these with like a heal. If you're needing a heal. And you have options for heals. You have Scythe. Hungry Scythe here. which will just hit multiple enemies. But we understand, if you don't have, the more enemies you have in front of you, the better this heal will be. So if you're just facing one target that does some AoE damage around the area, this might not be that good for you. But then you also have Necropotency, which you can restore ultimate, and it also heals you as you take it and your damage is reduced. So you can use this too. It will supply some heals as there's enemies on the ground, and it will also give you back ultimate. Spirit Guardian, I like this one. It will heal you, but the only issue is that it can also heal an ally around you, and it's going to heal you for every 2 seconds, restoring 4.2k health. While active, 10% of the damage you take is transferred to the spirit instead. So it can kind of keep you alive, and it's going to work. It's kind of works like a guard from the assault and support line. Basically, the damage will 10% of the damage will transfer to it, but the heal that it's going to give you might not go to you. It might go to somebody else. It's going to go to the lowest health ally. So if someone else is taking that damage too, and they get caught a little bit more than you, then that thing's going to heal them and not you. So it's really questionable. The heal I like to use the most is Braided Tether. Siphon the last remnants of life from a corpse, healing for 17.2k health over 12 seconds. To yourself, all allies around you, and all allies between you and the corpse. Ability scales off your highest offensive stat, while slot your healing does increase by 3. So basically, if I need a heal in a dungeon, you know, I've got Arcanist here to give me a corpse. Blast Bones will give me a corpse. Outside the first, the first 3. So about the third one, I would be able to use it if I wanted to. I would be able to use Braided Tether, because the first Blast Bones is going to get used for Graveyard. The second one is going to get used for Mystic Siphon, and then after that, I will have no problem using that third one for Braided Tether. But this is the one I use the most. That's just me. Use whatever you like. Use whatever makes you feel comfortable. But yeah, you can go Necropotency as well for more ulti regen, and it does provide some kind of healing as well. So you have options with health. This is really good if you have a big group of enemies. This is really good if you have, like, if you're running with people just nuking everything down. This will give you some healing and a ultimate back. And then this one is really good just to have. If you're taking damage, it will just heal you and only you, and it also heals the people around you. So it works. I prefer this one, honestly, but I have ran around with this one too. So go with whichever one you feel. Rotation wise, like I said, you're going to start with Arcanist. You're going to pop your pot, and then you're just going to Blast Bones. You'll rotate wall. At that point, it should have done it. Explode it. Graveyard. Rotate. Blast Bones. Degeneration. I usually do a Crush Shock here, and then it's exploded. So then I will Blast Bones, Mystic Siphon. Now, and that's pretty much it. And then I'll start my second rotation. As I'm doing my second rotation, Arcanist gets brought up every second rotation. I will drop my ultimate, my Colossus, on the second rotation, at least. So the rotation is kind of, it can be static, but it's not at the same time. It is kind of a dynamic rotation. So basically, every 2 abilities, you're going to cast your Blast Bones. So just keep that in mind. So if you do this, you're going to Blast Bones. If you do this, and then Degeneration, you're going to Blast Bones. And then Siphon, then Crushing Shock. And then you can probably go back and throw in 2 more Crushing Shocks, and then repeat and then Blast Bones, and then repeat the process. It just all depends on how comfortable you are with it, with the rotation. But overall, the rotation is not static. It's just keep your dots down, keep Blast Bones charging at the enemy, and throw your spam bull in between as you can. And you can honestly go with a full dot-based build for this without any spam bulls, but I like my Crushing Shock, so I use it while I have it. So I'll just throw it in there when I can. Like I said, I've tried to get multiple DPS tests with this. I lagged up horribly bad right here. And then I started to try to redo it after I got my ultimate here, and I didn't even get 12 seconds into it. My whole bar froze up. I couldn't bar swap. It was just bad. So I just like, you know what? I'm just going to call it. But overall, you can get, I've gotten anywhere between 35 to 38k with the DPS test. So that's more than enough as a Briton, even as a Briton. It's more than enough on any class to get through any vet dungeons, DLC, or normal base game, I guess not normal. That can get you into most trials, vet trials, to get your in-game gear or whatever you're after, and no problems through anything. So you shouldn't have any trouble with anything with those. Just practice on the rotation. Or if you find a better rotation, let me know. That's kind of what I do. Like I said, I kind of suck at Necromancer. So any input is always greatly appreciated. So if you enjoy it, I hope you enjoy it. Let me know how you like the Necromancer class. Let me know if it's your main or not. And until next time, take care. Have fun.